Landon jumped in the car and it tore away, spraying snow in its wake. Hazel took an involuntary step forward, an instinct to follow, but stopped short. It would be pointless. Why would she chase after them anyway? Angelica and Landon shared a bond no one could ever get between, a life-or-death connection. He had tackled the ski instructor for her, and now she had taken a hit for him. It was a closed loop, a world no one else could break into. Amanda's voice was dripping with sarcasm. "See that? Mr. Morgan only has eyes for our Angelica. Some people think just because they have the title of Mrs. Morgan, they actually have his heart. Pathetic." Hazel's eyes narrowed. Sure, she'd felt a sharp pang of hurt just a moment ago, but that didn't give just anyone the right to mock her. She fired back without a second thought. "Amanda, if you were on the brink of death right now, I'm sure Landon would rush you to the car too. Feel like giving it a shot?" Amanda's face went rigid. "You!" Luke stepped in, his patience worn thin. "Are you done, Amanda? Yesterday, you were crying about how Angelica couldn't be without you, insisting Hazel get out of the car. But today, Angelica's suddenly fine to leave without you? I guess her condition really depends on how many seats are available, huh?" Luke had been stewing on that for a while. Yesterday, Amanda had claimed only 3 people could fit in the car, and that she had to stay by Angelica's side because of her health, forcing Hazel out. But today, when the car could only fit 2, Amanda hadn't said a word, as if Angelica's delicate health had magically cured itself overnight. Amanda snapped. "Ugh, whatever! I have nothing to say to a murderer. Hazel, just you wait. Mr. Morgan won't be there to bail you out this time." With that, she stormed off with her posse. Luke clenched his fists. God, her face is so punchable. It's been a while since I've had to clock someone. Why do people like her even exist? Wait, Hazel, you okay? Hazel just stood there in the snow, completely frozen. She looked as lost and fragile as a baby squirrel, her eyes totally vacant. Luke's stomach dropped. Was this the same woman? The fiery, confident vixen he knew? He'd never seen her look so broken. He said, "Hey, Angelica's going to be fine, okay? The knife barely went in, and it's not your fault that ski coach lost his mind. Don't listen to Amanda. Landon will believe you. Of course he will." Hazel blinked, the world slowly coming back into focus. Yeah, Landon would believe her. But a cold certainty settled in her gut. Angelica had orchestrated this entire thing. Still, Angelica had lain in the snow for 2 hours, almost going into shock, and now she'd actually been stabbed. Who would ever believe she'd risk her own life just to frame someone else? Luke looked around and muttered, "Come on, let's just get down the mountain. Once Angelica is settled at the hospital, we can fly back to Athenbough with Landon." Hazel nodded, her expression blank. At the base of the mountain, Landon was still at the hospital, so Luke took charge and booked them a hotel. Hazel was out almost as soon as they checked in. Hours later, she surfaced from a deep, hazy sleep to the sound of her phone ringing. She fumbled for it, answering groggily. "Hello?" A warm male voice came through the line. "Do you want me to help you suppress the online rumors?" Hazel blinked, startled. Damien? Across town, the award-winning actor Damien stood before a floor-to-ceiling window. He said, "You haven't been online, have you? Check Twitter." Hazel glanced at the clock. It was past 11 p.m. She'd slept for nearly 10 hours straight. She opened Twitter, and the trending topics hit her like a slap in the face. Angelica, injured in skiing horror. Angelica, hospitalized. Angelica and Landon, saving each other. Morgan Group CEO's dramatic rescue of damsel in distress. Angelica takes a knife for Mr. Morgan. Multiple spots in the top 10 were all about Angelica. Hazel clicked on one. At first, the comments were just well wishes for her recovery. But as she scrolled down, the tone shifted, twisting into a full-blown smear campaign against her. Hazel frowned. Did Angelica buy a bunch of bots for this? Damien nodded on the other end. She did. All the promo accounts managed by her studio are working overtime. By the time I caught it, the posts had already blown up. Now that it's trending this hard, trying to pull it down might just add fuel to the fire. But if you want me to, my team can handle it. Hazel's eyes narrowed. No, don't waste the money. Even if we get it taken down, Angelica will just pay to get it trending again. She skimmed through the comment section. One user wrote, Angelica got hurt while skiing. She was trapped in the snow for 2 hours and then got stabbed. She still hasn't woken up. Another posted, praying for Angelica. How could something so awful happen on a ski trip? Someone else said, go watch the video Amanda just posted. Hazel's eyebrows shot up. She tapped on Amanda's profile, and there it was, a video. In the hospital, Amanda sat in front of the camera, her eyes red and puffy from crying. Angelica didn't want any of this to get out, she began, her voice cracking. I was going to stay quiet, but her condition is only getting worse. She's had to pull out of her TV series, her reality show, and all her upcoming interviews. If the scars don't heal right, she could lose her endorsement deals too. She continued, with all of this piling up, I just couldn't stay silent anymore. Angelica's injury wasn't some accident. The attacker was a ski instructor, and he confessed everything. He said Hazel hired him to attack Angelica. Amanda wiped away a tear, her voice trembling with rage. Angelica is lucky she wasn't permanently disfigured. Her life is still at risk. Her career is in jeopardy, and yet she refuses to blame the person responsible. Why is that? She asked directly. Hazel, do you have a conscience? Angelica is your sister. It's bad enough you've tried to kill her before, but now you're hiring people to finish the job? Angelica might be willing to forgive you, but I'm not. She concluded. Finally, I want to thank Mr. Morgan. Thank you for saving Angelica, twice. You carried her out of the snow when she couldn't even stand. And Angelica, she took a knife for you. I guess that's the only way she could ever repay you. The video ended, but the comments section was already a war zone, with every attack aimed squarely at Hazel. Hazel wants Angelica dead? That's sick. I knew that witch was bad news. Poor Angelica probably suffered for years living in the same house with her. Hiring someone to kill her own sister? Angelica wouldn't hurt a fly, and Hazel tried to end her life? Many of the insults were too vile to even read. Hazel almost had to laugh. Angelica? Kind? Who was the real puppet master here? Who was the one hiring assassins? Between what happened 4 years ago and everything now, yeah, it was time to settle the score. Beyond the attacks on her, the comments were buzzing with gossip about Landon. Let's be real. Mr. Morgan and Angelica are a perfect couple. A list superstar and a hotshot CEO? They just make sense together. Remember that time Angelica was spotted leaving Mr. Morgan's office looking disheveled? And wasn't she in different clothes? Her studio tried to spin it as just friends, but come on. Exactly. They've been secretly together for a while, I bet. I mean, look at this trip. Everyone else brought family, and Mr. Morgan brought Angelica. What more proof does anyone need? The comment section was a total firestorm. Wait, what? Is it true only family was allowed on this ski trip? Yeah, the resort belongs to Luke, and he made the rules. All the other guests brought their spouses, kids, or parents, but Mr. Morgan brought Angelica. Doesn't that pretty much make her his wife? That's basically a confirmation. So how did Hazel even get in? She probably just tagged along with Angelica. If Angelica is Mrs. Morgan, that makes Hazel the sister-in-law. And you can't exactly tell your sister-in-law to get lost, right? Hazel has zero shame. Not only did she crash the trip, she almost got Angelica killed. Mr. Morgan is definitely going to make her pay. Hazel's toast. Hazel scrolled through more of the comments, but it was all the same trash. She pressed her lips into a thin, hard line. What gave Angelica and Amanda the nerve to push this story? Landon specifically said this was supposed to stay private, that he'd find whoever was behind it himself. So how could Angelica just go over his head and let this whole thing blow up online? Damien's voice finally cut through the silence. Hazel, do you want me to handle this? Hazel snapped back to reality. She wondered what she was doing. Landon said he believed her. If she started doubting him now, she'd be playing right into Angelica's hands. No, it's okay. I'll handle it, Hazel said. But there are a couple things I need you to look into for me. Damien raised an eyebrow. You don't usually ask for favors. Shoot. Find out who's backing Angelica in the industry. Where is all her power coming from? Also, I need you to go over her schedule from 4 years ago with a fine-tooth comb. She paused. And one more thing. The ski instructor. Not a problem, Damien replied. I can track it all down. Restoring that video is going to take some time, though. Your birthday's coming up, right? You'll have the whole truth by then. Consider it a gift. Hazel blinked. Her birthday? With everything going on, she'd completely forgotten. After she hung up, she waited for Landon to come back, but the room stayed empty. When he didn't show, she finally grabbed her phone to call him, only to hear a faint ringing from inside her luggage. Hazel froze. Landon's phone. It had been in her bag the whole time, which meant she had no way to reach him. Just as she was about to put the phone back, it buzzed twice. New texts. A text from Angelica read, Landon, thank you. I'm feeling a lot better. And thanks for smoothing things over with the production team and the sponsors. Hazel's eyes widened. She knew that number. It was Angelica. Before she could even process the first one, a second message lit up the screen. Let's just drop what happened on the mountain, okay? Hazel is so young. If she actually went to jail, I know you'd be worried. She's your wife, after all. P.S. I talked to Uncle Ellington about the divorce. If that's what you want, he said the whole Ellington family will back you up. No questions asked. Hazel stared at the word divorce, a cold dread creeping into her veins. She wasn't an idiot. Reading the 3 texts back to back, the meaning was painfully clear. Landon had let Angelica's team spin the narrative. He'd saved her endorsements and jobs, and he'd been asking about a divorce. Divorce? Logic told her not to believe anything until she talked to Landon. But why would he want a divorce out of the blue? Those texts, combined with all the comments online painting Landon and Angelica as some kind of star-crossed lovers, it was enough to make her chest ache. A dull, hollow pain, like a crack had formed inside her, letting the cold seep in. Suddenly, Hazel felt completely adrift. She was here, waiting for Landon, but where was he? Angelica was awake, and he still wasn't back. Why? Didn't he know she was waiting? The ground beneath her feet, everything she thought was solid, suddenly felt like it was turning to dust. Hazel couldn't stand being in that room a second longer. She grabbed her suitcase, walked out, and headed straight for the airport. She booked the earliest flight and flew back to Affenbau in the dead of night. She just needed to be somewhere familiar, somewhere safe, somewhere she could be alone and just think. After landing, she went on autopilot, and the next thing she knew, she was standing in front of Sapphire Valley Villa. It was after 3 in the morning, and the villa was pitch black. Hazel stood there in a daze, staring at the front door for what felt like an eternity before finally letting herself in. She trudged up to the second floor, about to head to her room, when she saw a sliver of light from under the study door. Miller Butler's voice drifted out from inside. "Mrs. Perry, every generation has to find its own way. You really don't need to worry so much." Hazel blinked, hearing the name. Was Grandma Perry here? Sure enough, she heard the old woman sigh. "How can I not worry? You watched Landon grow up, Miller. You know how he is. He buries everything, love or hate, so deep inside. When I pushed him to marry Hazel, he went along with it, but he never told a soul they were married. And now that Angelica is back, I just don't know if he truly loves Hazel. Maybe he's just taking care of her, being good to her out of some sense of duty, but that can't last forever. I'm so afraid he's just putting on a brave face for me. Or maybe he feels sorry for Hazel, being so young and all alone if they were to divorce. That's the only reason he hasn't brought it up yet. But who would have thought a man as closed off as him, writing all those love letters to a woman he met once, 4 years ago? Miller, did I make a terrible mistake forcing this marriage? Hazel stumbled back a step, her body going rigid. It felt like the floor had dropped out from under her, plunging her into an icy lake. Landon wrote love letters? To the woman from 4 years ago? To Angelica? He was pouring his heart out in letters before he'd even found her again. And now that she was back, he had no reason to hide it anymore. He wasn't divorcing Hazel because he loved her, but because he didn't want to upset his grandmother. If he loved Angelica that much, then all the kindness he'd shown Hazel, was it all just an act? A sharp pain lanced through Hazel's heart, but it was quickly swallowed by a hollow, overwhelming void. She felt completely empty. She'd rather be alone for the rest of her life than stay in a marriage that was nothing but an act of pity. If Landon's heart belonged to someone else, then everything between them had been a lie. Quietly, she turned and crept back upstairs. A few minutes later, she came back down, just as quietly. She gathered her things, walked out the front door, and disappeared into the night without making a sound. The next morning, back at the resort, Luke went to get Hazel for breakfast, only to find her room empty and a single note on the bed. Went back to Affenbau. He immediately called Miller Butler, who sounded confused on the other end. "No one came home last night, sir." Luke's stomach dropped. Something was very, very wrong. He stormed into the hospital and searched everywhere, but Landon was nowhere to be found. "Jack, where is he?" "Sir had to take care of something urgent," Jack replied respectfully. "Is everything all right?" Luke stared at him, incredulous. Was everything all right? Was he kidding? Landon's wife was gone. Luke's eyes flickered to the hospital room. Angelica was lying in bed, looking as fragile as a flower. He shot her a look that could kill. Angelica bit her lip. "Luke, do you have something against me?" Angelica, Luke cut her off, his voice sharp as glass. Do you have any idea who I am? Angelica had always pegged Luke as a total idiot, easy to manipulate. Of course I know who you are. You're Luke, Landon's younger brother. No, Luke said, his voice low and deliberate. I'm the illegitimate son of the Morgan family. That's a fact. Angelica's smile froze on her face. Was this guy nuts? Who gave a damn if he was illegitimate? Before she could respond, the young man added with a smirk, My mom was the other woman. I've seen every trick in the book they pull to get what they want. And you, Angelica? You remind me of her. A stunned silence fell over the room. Everyone just stared, completely dumbfounded. Wait a minute. What was Luke saying? That his background gave him a masterclass in how a mistress operates? And that Angelica reminded him of his own mother, a woman notorious for clawing her way into the family? Was Luke basically calling Angelica a homewrecker? Angelica? A homewrecker? Her face twisted into a snarl, but she forced a tight, brittle smile. You've got a real sense of humor, Luke. Luke just let out a cold laugh, turned on his heel, and walked out. He hopped on the first plane straight back to Athenbough. Landon could keep playing doctor with Angelica for all he cared. If his wife left him over it, he damn well deserved it. A few hours later, Landon got a text from Jack. Hazel's gone? Luke said she flew back to Athenbough tonight, but Miller says she never made it to Sapphire Valley Villa. Landon's brow furrowed. He turned and strode out of the room. Get the jet ready. I'm heading back. Now. When he arrived at Sapphire Valley Villa, the first person he saw was his grandmother. Grandma? Landon, she sighed, her face etched with worry. Hazel came back, but then she was gone again. Didn't say a word. Landon froze. What did you say? It's my fault. I was talking to Miller last night, and Hazel must have overheard me. She explained how she'd found the love letters. What is going through your head, Landon? If you want to be with Angelica, fine, but you don't get to cheat on your wife. If you don't want to be with Hazel, then you man up. You talk to her, and you get a proper divorce before you go chasing after Angelica. If you cheat while you're married, how are you any different from your father? Landon's gaze fell to the stack of letters on the table, his lips pressing into a thin, hard line. Grandma, the only person I love is Hazel. Then what are these? Grandma Perry demanded, gesturing to the letters. They aren't love letters, Landon said quietly. They were just a way for me to find the woman who saved me years ago. Nothing more. Besides, the more time he actually spent around Angelica, the more he realized she was nothing like the woman from his memories. The connection just wasn't there. Grandma Perry was still not convinced. Then what about the trending topics on Twitter? It's been more than 10 hours. Why is that trash still online? You left Hazel all alone at that hospital and didn't say a single word to her. Landon swallowed, the truth catching in his throat. More than 10 hours ago, right after getting Angelica settled at the hospital, a searing pain had ripped through him. The latent poison in his system had flared up without warning. He'd been unconscious for nearly 10 hours. Jack's text was the first thing he saw when he came to. He had rushed back the second he could. But he couldn't tell his grandmother that. He couldn't bear to worry her. He lowered his eyes. It was my fault. Don't worry, Grandma. I'll bring Hazel home. Seeing Landon admit fault so readily left Grandma Perry speechless for a moment. Landon, if you really care about her, then you need to explain everything. Don't let her get hurt like this again. And you need to handle that situation with Angelica. I don't care if she's your so-called savior. You're married to Hazel. If fate wanted you two together, it wouldn't have gone down like this. I will not have my grandson turn into a man who betrays his wife. Landon nodded grimly. I understand. After seeing his grandmother out, Landon turned and walked upstairs. Hazel hadn't brought much with her to begin with, so on the surface, Sapphire Valley Villa looked exactly the same. But Landon felt the difference down to his bones. The whole villa felt hollow, dead, utterly empty. It felt like his own heart had stopped beating. He took a deep breath, pulled out his phone, and dialed Damien. At the Brown Villa, Hazel was slumped on the couch, looking completely drained. Damien handed her a slice of apple. Guess who just called me? Hazel didn't even glance up. Not interested. Fair enough, Damien said with a shrug. But him calling me means he knows you're here. What's the plan when he shows up to drag you home? Hazel's expression didn't flicker. So what if he comes? Doesn't mean I'm going anywhere with him. Damien paused, then let out a low, amused chuckle. I never said who he was, you know. You just played yourself, Hazel. Hazel's head snapped up. Damn it! He got me. She turned her face away. So what if he shows up? I just won't see him. The words had barely left her mouth when a maid rushed in. Mr. Brown, you have a visitor. Damien's eyes lit up, practically vibrating with the promise of drama. Well, that was fast. Color me impressed. Send him in. Hazel was about to lose it. Damien! He replied in a warm, gentle tone. Hey, relax. He can't drag you out of here unless you want to go. And besides, aren't you a little curious to see how he tries to win you back? Hazel wanted to scream, absolutely not! But before she could, the sound of steady footsteps echoed from the hall. She froze, then quickly turned to leave. Miss Ellington, leaving so soon? Am I really that repulsive? The voice was smooth and polite, but it wasn't Landon's. Hazel couldn't tell if she was relieved or disappointed. She turned around. Jacob? Who else would you be expecting? Jacob asked with a sly smile. Apologies for dropping in, but I have something I think you'll want to see. Damien narrowed his eyes slightly, dismissing the maid with a wave of his hand. Hazel looked at Jacob, her curiosity piqued. What do you want to show me? He slid a folder onto the coffee table. When you first got married, you looked into Landon's background, didn't you? But did it ever occur to you that the information you found might have been curated? That someone wanted you to see a very specific version of the truth and made sure the real one was buried? Hazel's eyes fell to the papers, and her brow furrowed as she flipped through them. The file detailed how, during her initial investigation, someone had actively blocked her access to the real story. Jacob chuckled softly. You thought you were marrying someone from the Carter family, but Landon's last name is Morgan. I'm sure you asked him about that. What was his explanation? Hazel's lips pressed into a tight line. He'd told her he changed his name, but he'd never once claimed his last name had ever been Carter. She stared at the pages, her mind reeling as she read through incident after incident where Landon's interference had twisted what she believed to be the truth. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. Was she heartbroken? Not exactly. A part of her had always suspected she'd married the wrong man. Still, having it confirmed, The Band-Aid ripped clean off, revealing the ugly truth underneath. Stung like hell. Jacob slid the folder away and asked in a neutral tone, "So, Miss Ellington, now that you know Landon has been lying to you from the very beginning, what are you going to do about it?"
He knew you had to marry someone from the Carter family to get your inheritance, but he hid that from you and straight up lied. Plus, there's that whole shady thing with Angelica. Jacob raised an eyebrow.
"So, Miss Ellington, you hate him now?"
Hazel snapped back to reality. "And what's that got to do with you?" Jacob offered a small, knowing smile.
"Of course, it has everything to do with me. I was the one you were supposed to marry, remember? If you're done with Landon, does that mean I've got a shot?"
Hazel's expression remained flat. "Sorry, Mr. Carter. You're getting a little ahead of yourself."
Jacob didn't seem fazed. "Figured you'd say that. Look, I'm not trying to push things. Actually, I have another way for you to get your inheritance. No marriage required." Hazel arched an eyebrow, sensing a catch. And sure enough, Jacob continued. "All I'm asking is that you come to a private party I'm throwing."
Hazel looked up at him, skeptical. "Let me get this straight. If I go to your party, you'll help me get my mother's inheritance back? Just like that?"
Jacob's smile was disarmingly innocent. "Exactly." He turned to leave. "Think it over, Miss Ellington. It's not a big ask. Show up to one party to get back what's rightfully yours. Sounds like a hell of a deal to me."
Hazel couldn't get a read on Jacob. Something about him just felt off. After he left, Damien asked,
"So, are you going to the party?"
Hazel shook her head, about to answer, when she caught sight of a sleek black car parked outside. She blinked. Damien didn't own a car like that.
"Wait."
Damien clearly noticed it too, raising an eyebrow.
Well, well, look who it is. Someone's worried about you. God knows how long he's been out there. Seems a little cruel to leave him in the cold. Want me to invite him in for some tea?"
The memory of Landon's lies flashed in Hazel's mind, and she slammed the window shut. "No thanks, I'm going to bed." An assistant quietly asked Damien, "Should we let Mr. Morgan in?" Damien waved him off.
"Let him stay out there. Maybe a little time in the cold will teach him not to take our Hazel for granted."
Hazel spent hours upstairs, lost in a storm of her own thoughts. She'd been lying to herself. Landon was a foster child of the Carter family, which technically meant he counted. It meant she could get her inheritance, but it was painfully obvious now that the Carters had cut ties with him. He was never really one of them. She'd tested him, pushed him for answers, and every single time he'd managed to brush her off. And she, like a complete idiot, had let him. She'd married the wrong man. She wasn't getting her inheritance. And now there was Angelica. For the first time in her life, Hazel felt completely and utterly lost. Should she get a divorce? She knew it was better to cut your losses early. If she left now, she wouldn't have to care who Landon got close to. She wouldn't have to feel that sharp sting of pain every time he looked at another woman. But just the thought of it made her chest ache. She stayed in her room until it got dark, skipped dinner, and finally crept downstairs around 11:30, her stomach growling. To her surprise, Damien was still in the living room. When he saw her, he said casually, "Just a heads up, a cold front's moving in. They're calling for snow in Athenboe tonight." Hazel frowned. "And?" Damien nodded toward the front door. Your someone is still out there. Been standing there all day in nothing but a light coat. If it starts snowing and he stays out there all night, the guy's gonna freeze to death. Against her will, Hazel's eyes drifted toward the door. Landon stood tall, leaning against his car. He cut a lonely figure in the darkness. As if he could feel her watching him, he looked up. Her heart hammered against her ribs, and she spun away. Let him freeze, for all I care. I'm hungry. Damien stood up with a low chuckle. I'll whip you up a steak. Oh, should I make an extra one for our guest outside? Poor guy probably hasn't eaten all day either. Hazel shot Damien a death glare. He just laughed, clearly enjoying himself. Hey, as long as you don't feel bad for him, we'll just let him starve. Hazel was speechless. After finishing her steak, she decided out of sight, out of mind was the only way forward. She turned her back on the front door, refusing to even glance in Landon's direction. Since she'd slept so much during the day, Hazel couldn't fall asleep. She lay in bed, scrolling through her phone, when she saw a post from an old classmate. Snow in Athenborough. She tapped the picture. The snow was coming down thick and fast, already blanketing the ground. She realized it was snowing. Hazel shot up in bed and tiptoed to the window. She hesitated, her hand hovering over the curtain. She told herself there was no way he was still out there. The snow was coming down hard. He must have left. He was not an idiot. Why would he just stand out in a snowstorm for someone who would not even see him? He had to be gone. She was just going to take a peek. One look. Just to watch the snow. Not to check on him. Definitely not. After a final, silent pep talk, Hazel pulled back the curtain and froze. She wondered why he was still standing there. It was 2 a.m. The whole house was dark. The second she flicked on her lamp and opened the curtain, she might as well have aimed a spotlight right at herself. And of course, their eyes locked instantly. Heat flooded Hazel's cheeks. She yanked the curtain shut. She wondered if he was insane. Didn't he have a company to run tomorrow? Even if he wasn't going into the office, standing out here all night, was he trying to get himself killed? She considered waking someone to make him leave, but the staff were all asleep. Hazel climbed back into bed. Not my problem, she muttered to the empty room. If he freezes to death out there, it is absolutely not my business. Not my problem. I am going to sleep. But she couldn't sleep at all. This is not good, she mumbled, pacing her room. If he collapses out there, the morning news will be a nightmare. CEO of Morgan Group found near frozen outside Brown Estate. Damien would kill me. Hazel sighed and finally gave in. This was for Damien's sake. It had nothing to do with Landon. She threw on a warm coat, grabbed an umbrella, and hurried outside. Landon had been waiting for hours. By midnight, the first snow of the season began to fall. Heavy flakes clung to his coat, stinging his exposed skin. He knew the chances of her coming out were slim to none, but he couldn't face going back to their empty house. He'd rather freeze out here, under her window, than be there without her. At 2 a.m, when a light flicked on in her room and he saw her silhouette at the window, it felt like his frozen heart lurched back to life. Just seeing her was enough. But then, the front door creaked open. A figure holding an umbrella ran toward him through the swirling snow. Landon! It felt like the blood had frozen in his veins. She came out,
He wondered if it was for him. The second Hazel stepped outside, a blast of icy wind hit her, and she shivered. She scowled and snapped. "It's the middle of the night! What on earth are you doing just standing around outside someone else's house?" Landon stared at the woman in front of him, looking at her like a man who was afraid she'd vanish if he blinked. He said softly, "I'm not just waiting around out here. I came to take you home." Without a second's thought, Hazel shot back, "I'm not going back." Landon's eyes darkened for a beat. Then a small, knowing laugh escaped him. "All right, fine. Stay here. Have a blast with Damien." Hazel gave him a sharp look. "Don't call him by his first name. You two aren't that close." The nerve of him. Damien was her brother. What right did Landon have? Her fire seemed to soften his gaze. A small smile touched his lips as he suddenly pressed a hand to his stomach. Hazel noticed. "What's wrong?" His voice came out hoarse. "I haven't eaten all day. My stomach is killing me." She immediately recalled what Miller Butler had told her. Landon's childhood had been rough. He'd often gone hungry, which had left him with chronic stomach problems. Stomach pains from an empty stomach. And there was plenty of food in the kitchen. Wait, what was she doing? Feeling sorry for him? Not a chance. She pulled out her phone. "I'm calling Jack to come get you." Landon let out a quiet sigh. "Mrs. Morgan, do you really think I'm the kind of boss who'd drag an employee out of bed at 2 a.m? Hazel was stunned, speechless. "Don't call me Mrs. Morgan!" He didn't push it. Instead, Landon took a step back, his tone respectful. "Okay, Hazel. Even if there's nothing to eat, can I at least come inside for a minute? Sit down, have a glass of water before I go?" Hazel had never seen him like this before. His brow was furrowed, his face pale. He looked so unlike his usual cool, distant self. Was he actually in pain? She might not want to give him food, but denying him a glass of water? That just felt cruel. What if someone saw? They'd say the Browns were so poor they couldn't even offer a guest a drink. With a sharp sigh, she muttered, "Fine, come in, but just for a minute, and then you're gone." Landon followed her inside without a moment's hesitation. In the living room, she kept the lights dim, not wanting to wake Damien. "Wait here. I'll get you some water." "Hey, what are you doing?" She'd barely turned before Landon grabbed her wrist. "I can get it." Hazel narrowed her eyes. "Are you sure you're in that much pain? I've never seen someone with a stomachache move so fast." He just raised an eyebrow calmly. "Hazel, I didn't want to trouble you. It's the middle of the night. You shouldn't have to take care of a sick man." She almost sputtered, on the verge of snapping. "You wouldn't be sick, and I wouldn't have to deal with this if you hadn't been standing out in the cold all night." Landon was quiet for a moment before murmuring, "What was I supposed to do? I just needed to see you." Hazel could hear her own heart pounding in her chest as the world fell silent around them. She almost gave in. But no. The whole situation with Landon and Angelica was a complete mess. A ticking time bomb. And Angelica had texted Landon about a divorce. Hazel's softening expression hardened in an instant. "There's steak in the fridge. If you're that hungry, cook it yourself. I'm going to bed." Landon gave her a gentle nod. "Okay, get some rest."
Hazel was completely thrown. What was that? She was the one telling him she was going to bed. But the way he said it, it was like he was the one dismissing her. So strange. She never used to overthink things like this. It was just Landon's fault for waking her up in the first place. She was just tired and cranky. That was all. After Hazel went upstairs, Landon made his way to the kitchen. A little while later, the sizzle from the pan quieted, and he placed 2 cooked steaks on plates. He carried them upstairs and knocked gently on Hazel's door. Hazel was lying in bed, trying to will herself to sleep. But every time she closed her eyes, her mind just drifted back to Landon. What was he doing down there? Was he done with the steak? Had he eaten? If so, shouldn't he be leaving? Why hadn't she heard the door? Had he left or not? The questions spun in her head, a dizzying loop that made sleep impossible. The more she thought, the more irritated she became. Then, a soft knock at the door cut through the silence. "Who is it?" she called out. "What do you want?" A familiar voice answered, impossibly gentle. "Hazel, I brought you some steak." The room went quiet. Hazel's brain stalled. Was that Landon? She yanked the door open. Landon was standing there, his expression soft, looking completely gentle and harmless. "I made 2. Hazel stared at him blankly. "I don't want it." As if a single steak could win her over. He could dream on. Landon chuckled. Then what would you like to eat, Hazel?" She froze. Did he not get it? She was turning him down, flat out. But Landon just spoke softly, his voice coaxing. "It's just steak. Don't read too much into it. Eat it, don't eat it, I'm not asking for anything. I'll leave it here for you, okay?" And he did just that, setting the plate by her door with no move to join her. Hazel stared after his retreating figure, completely torn. She knew married couples were supposed to talk things out when there was a problem. But where could she even begin? Were the texts real? Was Angelica really that important to him? If it came down to the woman who saved his life versus his wife, who would he choose? There were no easy answers. Halfway down the hall, Landon stopped and turned back. "Hazel," he said, "no matter what happens, I need you to believe me. What I feel for you, it's real." Her heart skipped a beat. Before she could stop herself, the words tumbled out. "You said taking Angelica to the ski resort was her final wish. Now that you've done what she asked, does that mean you'll never see her again?" She regretted it the second the words left her mouth. What was she thinking? Angelica had just saved his life. Again. "Yes, I won't see her again." Hazel's eyes widened. Landon continued calmly. "Mrs. Morgan, if you want something, just ask me. I'm your husband. We're not strangers." Her heart hammered against her ribs. She could barely hold herself together. Biting her lip, she masked the storm inside her with a blank stare and slammed the door. "Right, I'm going to sleep." Landon stood outside her door for a long moment before a soft, wry laugh escaped him. "Well, this is a step in the right direction," he thought. "She's starting to soften, but it's going to take time." He went back downstairs, calmly finished his steak, washed the plate and utensils, and slipped out of the villa without a sound. The next morning, Hazel woke up early, her main goal to sneak downstairs and wash the dishes from last night before Damien saw them. If he did, he'd definitely have questions. But when she got to the kitchen, Mrs. Cole was already there, wiping down the counters. Hazel stopped in her tracks. "Mrs. Cole,
Did you clean up the dishes from last night? From the dining table, Damien looked up with interest. Mrs. Cole blinked, confused. Were there dishes left out last night, miss? I thought I cleaned everything. Feeling Damien's eyes on her, Hazel pressed on. You didn't see any dirty dishes when you came in this morning? Mrs. Cole shook her head. No, of course not. The kitchen was spotless. Though the steaks in the fridge are gone. Damien set down his newspaper, a knowing smile playing on his lips. I distinctly remember having 2 steaks in there last night. What happened? Did a burglar break in just to cook a meal? Mrs. Cole gasped. Oh my goodness! Should we check the security cameras? What kind of thief breaks in just to cook a steak? Hazel's mind went blank. If they check the cameras, they'll see Landon was here. She quickly cut in. No, don't! I ate it. I ate the steak last night. Mrs. Cole's eyes widened. Miss, you washed the dishes yourself after eating? Oh, you could have just left them for me. Hazel let out a nervous laugh. Yeah, I couldn't remember if I washed them or not, so I just wanted to check. Resting his chin on his palm, Damien looked thoroughly amused. But that was 2 steaks. You ate all that by yourself? Hazel cleared her throat. I was hungry, okay? Is that a crime? Not at all, Damien said with a smirk. I just thought maybe some mystery man stopped by to help you finish it. Good to know that wasn't the case. Hazel fell silent. She knew the second he said mystery man that he'd figured it out. Landon had been here. He casually continued. Mrs. Cole, please go buy some more steak. We'll have it for breakfast. Since Hazel loves it so much, she can have more. Mrs. Cole beamed. Yes, sir. I'll go right now. Hazel wanted to protest, but she knew if she refused, Damien would just find another way to tease her. So she forced a smile. Sure, I'd love some. By the time breakfast was over, Hazel was positive she never wanted to see another steak for at least a month. She had a class at 9 a.m., giving her the perfect excuse to escape. Just as she was heading for the door, her phone rang. Professor Green, is something wrong? Hazel asked. Her old advisor, Professor White, had been fired. Her new one, Professor Green, was a kind, understanding teacher. But today, he sounded exhausted. Hazel, you've seen the news, haven't you? Hazel's eyes narrowed. About you and Angelica, he said. The school board knows you're not that kind of person. They're sure this is all a misunderstanding. But Angelica's fans are demanding you be expelled. He continued. They've even shown up on campus, threatening to teach you a lesson if you set foot on campus. The Student Affairs Office wants you to wait until things calm down before you come back to class. Hazel's voice turned cold. Angelica's fans are on campus? Are they bothering other students? Professor Green sighed. Of course they are. The administration has been trying to get them to leave, but there are so many of them. These passionate fans are spray painting her name on the walls, leaving notes everywhere, and hanging banners on the track field. They're harassing any student who says they don't like her. The students called the police, but it didn't do any good. Everyone is miserable. That's why the Student Affairs Office is hoping that if you stay away for a bit, the fans will get bored and leave. Hazel, I'm so sorry you're being put through this. I understand, Hazel said calmly. I'll take a leave of absence for now. But don't worry, the truth will come out soon enough. After she hung up, her expression hardened.
So that's how it is. Just because she's some big-shot celebrity, she thinks she can lie and frame people, knowing her devoted fans will do her dirty work. Hazel could handle Angelica coming after her directly, but dragging innocent students into this? That was crossing a line. Her phone buzzed again. It was a business partner. Miss Ellington, I'm sorry, but our brand is built on integrity. With this kind of controversy, your designs just won't sell. Another call. A voice on the other end said, Miss Ellington, about that project we discussed, I don't think it's the right fit for us at this time. And another, look, it's not that we're judging you, but Angelica's fan base is massive. We can't afford to get on her bad side. And another, frankly, I'm being generous even calling you. Have you seen what people are saying online? They want you ruined. You picked a fight with a celebrity. You lost. Accept it. The calls kept coming, one after another, as if on a schedule. Hazel listened to each one and hung up, her face a calm, unreadable mask. After the last call, she blinked slowly and turned to Damien. Damien, is the video ready? Damien chuckled. Of course. Hazel nodded. Angelica is at the hospital, right? She stirred up this whole mess, dragged my name through the mud. Of course she's going to be at the hospital, milking it for all it's worth. Damien's expression was serious. Hazel, there are a lot of ways to handle this. You don't have to see her in person. She loves using her celebrity status to bully people. But in a battle of fame, mine crushes hers. Easily. Hazel shook her head. No, Damien. The Ellington family drama is mine to solve. I'm not letting anyone else fight my battles for me. Damien didn't push it. Just as Hazel was about to leave, her phone rang one more time. It was Troy, his voice sickeningly sweet. Hazel, even if Angelica isn't my biological daughter, you can't treat her this way, he chastised. We all know what happened. If you have a minute, you should come to the hospital and apologize. Angelica is a forgiving person. She won't hold a grudge. A wave of pure disgust washed over Hazel. The father, the family, Angelica, they were all disgusting. Her voice turned to ice. Apologize? Before Troy could reply, Hazel laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. Sure, wait for me at the hospital. I'll be right there. At the hospital, Troy hung up and sighed. All right, Angelica. Hazel agreed to come and apologize. You two are sisters. Just try to get along from now on. Angelica smiled sweetly. Don't worry, Uncle Ellington. She then turned to the reporters gathered in her room, putting on a gentle, magnanimous performance. Hazel will be here soon to apologize. I'd appreciate it if you all would live stream it. We're family. Once she apologizes, this will all be over. This whole thing has been blown way out of proportion. The reporters buzzed with excitement. Hazel was coming to apologize. This was the story of the day. 5 minutes later, a new wave of hashtags started trending on Twitter. Hashtag Hazel apologizes. Hashtag Angelica forgives. Hashtag the face of an evil sister. Every post painted Hazel as the villain. Standing at the entrance of the hospital, Hazel pulled out her phone and scoffed at the screen. Oh, they want to call me vicious? Fine. I'll show them what vicious really looks like. In the hospital room, Angelica was still playing her part perfectly.
Uncle Troy, please don't be too hard on Hazel. She's not a bad person, just a little young and impulsive.
Young? Angelica, don't you dare defend her, Troy snapped. We spoiled her rotten, and this is what we get? She's vicious. She's lucky she's supposed to be here to apologize, or I swear I'd knock some sense into her myself. She's never been on your level, but she can't stop trying to compete with you. How did I raise a daughter like that? Shaking her head, Angelica spoke in that soft, gentle voice of hers.
Uncle Troy, please don't let Hazel hear you say that. She already thinks being in Ellington makes her better than me. I really don't mind, though.
A sharp knock cut her off. The door swung open before anyone could answer, and Hazel sauntered in, a lazy, sarcastic smirk on her face. The air in the room went still.
So, what wasn't I supposed to hear?
Hazel asked, dropping into a lounge chair and arching an eyebrow.
Please, don't stop on my account.
The silence thickened. The moment Amanda laid eyes on her, her face contorted with rage. You have the nerve to show your face? She shrieked, her hand flying up to slap Hazel. Look what you did to Angelica! Hazel's hand shot out, catching Amanda's wrist mid-swing. With a sharp twist, Amanda cried out and stumbled back, clutching her arm. The cops haven't charged me with a thing, Hazel said, her voice dangerously low. So what are you doing, Amanda? Playing judge, jury, and executioner? For a split second, Angelica's mask of concern faltered, but she recovered instantly, forcing a weak smile. Hazel, please. It's not what it looks like. Amanda's just worried sick about me. Don't worry, I won't hold this against you. Troy jumped in. That's right, Hazel. We're just worried you're going down the wrong path. You can't always assume the worst of your family. A cold, humorless laugh escaped Hazel's lips. We both know that's a load of crap, Mr. Ellington. So you can spare me the fake concern. Troy's face flushed with anger. You! Hazel didn't give him the chance to finish. Her gaze shifted to Angelica. You're looking pretty healthy. Guess the gift I brought is a waste after all. Amanda sneered. A gift? You think that makes up for anything? It's a burial plot, Hazel said, casually tossing a deed onto the bedside table. I figured, since you're so convinced I hired someone to kill you, I should probably plan for the worst-case scenario. It's got a great view, peaceful. You'd love it. Shame it'll go to waste now. Hazel! Troy exploded. You little monster! Angelica is your sister, and you're wishing she was dead? Gasps filled the room. Was Hazel insane? Gifting a burial plot? What kind of twisted person does that? Tears welled in Angelica's eyes as Troy's tirade continued. I thought you were here to apologize, to turn over a new leaf. But you're just as cruel as ever. Always joking about murder. You have no decency. First Angelica, then who? Are you going to kill me next? Murder? Hazel's voice turned to ice. Mr. Ellington, you say that like your hands are clean. I might talk about it, but do you really think I'd follow through? If you want to talk murder, let's talk about how my mother died, or how Katie clawed her way into this family. Better yet, why don't you ask your precious Angelica what she did to me 4 years ago? You've slept next to Katie for 20 years and treated her daughter like your own. Why aren't you afraid of them? Troy choked, his face turning a furious shade of red. Hazel, you're out of line. There's Angelica, someone shouted. Look, that psycho is bothering Angelica again, another person yelled. She's making her cry. Is she trying to bully her? A fan asked. Just then, the thunder of footsteps echoed down the hall, followed by a wave of angry shouting. Angelica's fans were here. Angelica's eyes flickered with calculation as she quickly arranged her features into a mask of devastation, shooting a subtle glance at Amanda. Amanda's face immediately twisted into a portrait of pained helplessness. Miss Hazel, Angelica is still your sister.
Don't you think wishing death on her is taking things too far? That was all it took. The fans exploded into the room like a rabid mob. One fan yelled, "I knew it. She's a heartless monster who grew up without a mother. Someone teach her a lesson." Another screamed, "We can't let Angelica suffer like this. There are more of us. Let's get her." A faint, triumphant smile touched Angelica's lips. After years in the spotlight, she knew how to play her fans like a fiddle. Getting them to fight her battles was child's play. And if they happened to kill Hazel, well, it wouldn't be her fault. She had tried to stop them, hadn't she? "Everyone, please, calm down," she pleaded with fake concern. "Hazel was just joking with me." But that only stoked their rage. They thought she was so kind, still defending that monster. One fan lunged forward, swinging a folded umbrella like a bat, aimed straight for Hazel's head. Hazel's eyes narrowed, her hand coming up to block the blow. "Is a felony charge really worth it for your favorite celebrity?" she bit out. "Shut up! I'd die for Angelica!" the fan shrieked, collapsing as she was shoved aside. Hazel stumbled backward, landing hard against a solid chest. She froze, stunned, then slowly looked up. Landon's face was arctic, his eyes chips of ice, with no trace of warmth. "Jack," he said, his voice deadly calm. "Clean this up." Angelica and Amanda exchanged a look, their expressions instantly shifting back to sweet and innocent. "Landon, you're here," Angelica cooed. "Amanda, could you get Mr. Morgan some tea?" The fans' rage dissolved into stunned whispers. "That's the Landon Morgan?" one whispered. "Oh my God, he came to see Angelica," another said in awe. "I knew it. They're totally a couple," a third concluded. One fan, emboldened, pointed a shaky finger at Hazel. "Mr. Morgan, you won't believe it. Hazel just wished Angelica was dead. You're here to put her in her place, right?" They all stared at Landon, waiting for him to defend Angelica's honor. Hazel tuned out the chaos, her hands balling into fists. She stared straight at Landon. "I thought you were done with her." So what was he doing here? In her hospital room, surrounded by her rabid fans feeding the rumors. Landon's gaze never left hers. "I gave her something 4 years ago," he said, his voice low and even. "I'm here to get it back." Hazel fought to keep her voice from shaking. "Is that right? Just picking up an old keepsake?" Angelica, basking in the attention, struck a pitiful pose. "Hazel, please," she said, her voice just loud enough for the phone she was holding to pick up. "Stop clinging to Mr. Morgan. It's not a good look. I'm live right now." The fan comments, visible on the screen, would be flooding in. The digital mob piled on instantly. "Why is she all over Angelica's man? So desperate," one comment read. "Trying to steal her sister's fiancé right in front of her. Imagine what she does behind her back," another appeared. Hazel's head snapped up, her eyes blazing with a fresh wave of fury. Brother-in-law? Angelica's guy now? Past or present, Hazel and Landon were the ones who were married. So where did that leave Angelica? Hazel met Angelica's smug gaze, and a slow smile spread across her face. "Oh? So Landon's officially my brother-in-law? Funny, I don't remember getting the memo." Landon's eyes narrowed, his gaze turning cold as he looked at Angelica. Angelica flinched and quickly shook her head. "Landon, they're just talking nonsense. My fans are young. Please don't take them seriously. I know. My sweet sister brought me here to apologize, didn't she? Hazel cut her off, her voice sharp as she stared Angelica down. So what's with all the theatrics? Or did you just want an audience while you two get cozy? Hazel, Angelica let out a pitiful sigh. You're my sister. You don't have to apologize. Landon's here, and we... How could I not apologize? Hazel's smile was sickly sweet. If I don't, everyone will just say I'm bullying sweet, innocent Angelica again. Isn't that right? Angelica's expression froze. Angelica, make her apologize, Amanda snapped, her face flushed with anger. Hazel almost got you killed, and she's still acting this smug. If you don't put her in her place, she'll never learn. Amanda's voice grew shrill. Hazel, you said you'd apologize, so do it. Admit you did it on purpose, right here on the live stream. Angelica just lowered her eyes, playing the perfect helpless victim, not even trying to stop her. Meanwhile, at Athenbow University, screens were lit up as students watched the live stream. Caroline chimed in with that sickly sweet voice of hers. Hazel has always been jealous of Angelica. Honestly, I'm not surprised she did this. I just hope she learns her lesson. Oh, give it a rest, Caroline, one of the university students shot back. Who do you think you're fooling with that fake innocent act? Another commented, I'm with Hazel on this one. Angelica is nothing but a shameless homewrecker. That comment set things off. Angelica had a legion of die-hard fans at Athenbow, and they absolutely lost it. One wrote, You college kids are all morons, thinking you're so smart just because you go to some fancy university. Hazel's a total monster. Exactly, another added. Angelica is the kindest person. Hazel tried to kill someone, and if you defend her, you deserve to rot in hell right along with her. A third comment read, If Hazel didn't do it, why is she there apologizing? She's guilty, period. Athenbow needs to expel her, another demanded. Back in the hospital room, Hazel let out a soft chuckle at Amanda's outburst. If I'd really done it, she said slowly, you wouldn't have to force me. I'd apologize on my own. But since I didn't... She glanced at Angelica, a knowing smirk playing on her lips. Sis, are you really sure you want me to apologize? A chill ran down Angelica's spine. Something about this felt wrong. But all the evidence was gone. The ski coach had too much dirt on him. He wouldn't dare open his mouth. There was no way Hazel could have found anything. No, she had to be bluffing. Angelica steadied her nerves. Hazel, the ski coach confessed. He said you paid him. I'm not trying to punish you. I just want you to admit what you did and change your ways. That's funny, Hazel said, tilting her head with a grin. That ski coach is your friend. So why would I be the one to hire him for a hit? If I knew he was close to you, wouldn't it be incredibly stupid to try and bribe him? She leaned forward. Let's flip it around. If you wanted to have me killed, would you pay off one of my best friends? The words, have me killed, made Angelica's throat tighten. Hazel, what are you talking about? How is the ski coach my friend? Just because you're trying to get out of this. If he's not your friend, then why were you seen having dinner with him? Multiple times? Hazel let out a cold laugh, cutting her off as she tossed a stack of printed photos onto the table. What's the matter, Angelica? You just have a thing for dining with hired killers? The entire room fell into a shocked silence. The photos were crystal clear. Angelica and the ski coach, not just at dinner, but at concerts and the movies. Who gets that chummy with a supposed stranger, let alone a would-be assassin. This was irrefutable proof. Long before the attack, the coach was already in Angelica's circle. The color drained from Troy's face. His knees buckled slightly as he staggered back a step. Angelica looked like she'd been struck by lightning. Her carefully constructed, tear-streaked mask shattered, replaced by raw panic. No way. She'd destroyed every copy of those photos. How in the world did Hazel get them? What the hell was happening? She shrieked, all composure gone. No! I don't even know his name! Hazel, why are you trying to frame me with fake photos? Amanda jumped in, shouting desperately. Exactly! Those are obviously fake! Anyone can Photoshop a picture these days. You're sick, Hazel. Oh, I'm the one framing you. Hazel's tone dropped, her gaze turning arctic as she took a slow, deliberate step forward. Fine. Let's say the photos are fake. Then how do you explain the video? Her voice cut through the silence. Angelica, I really want to know. What did I ever do to you? What kind of grudge are you holding that you'd go to these lengths, again and again, just to destroy me? She let out a dark chuckle, tapped her phone twice, and aimed the screen at the livestream camera. Oh, is this thing still live? Perfect. Angelica's eyes widened in terror. What are you doing? Amanda, stop her! Too late. The video started playing. It was security footage from a private studio, audio and all. On the screen, Amanda and the ski coach. Everyone watching held their breath. In the video, Amanda slid a check across a table. Is this enough? All you have to do is say Hazel paid you. I'll take care of the rest. The ski coach hesitated. But Hazel's no idiot. If I say she hired me for a hit, isn't she going to fight back? Amanda smiled smugly. Don't worry, Angelica will have your back. Just stick to the story. The coach hesitated again. But how is Miss Ellington supposed to help? We're on a frozen mountain. What's she gonna... The video cut out. Stunned silence. People stared at their screens, completely speechless. This was insane. The supposed killer and the victim's own assistant caught on camera, conspiring to frame Hazel. A few nurses whispered in disbelief. Wait, so this was all staged? The whole attempted murder was a setup? So the coach wasn't hired by Hazel at all. Amanda paid him off, and Angelica was in on it. That's just evil. Amanda was frozen, her face a mask of horror. No, that's not what it looks like. Hazel calmly slipped her phone back into her pocket, letting out a sigh that sounded almost like disappointment. Angelica, she said softly, we're not sisters by blood, but we grew up under the same roof. Why would you do this? If that charge had stuck, I'd be in prison right now. What did you possibly gain by trying to ruin my life? Her tone sharpened, slicing through the room like a razor. You were the mistress's daughter, baggage the Ellingtons took on out of guilt. You were fed, clothed, and spoiled rotten, treated better than me half the time. So tell me, what the hell do you have to be so bitter about? The second Hazel finished speaking, a nurse nearby burst out. You're the oldest daughter of the Ellington family. It's obvious, isn't it? Some people are just after your title. If nothing had happened to you, you'd always be the heiress, and she'd always be the outsider. But if you'd gone to jail, she'd get to play the victim, and the Ellingtons would have had to compensate her. And how do you think they'd do that? By handing her your title, of course. Another person added,
She's not even a blood relative, and she had the nerve to try and steal your place. No wonder. She was brought in by a mistress, rotten to the core just like her mother, someone else exclaimed. So the celebrity Angelica isn't as innocent as she looks, huh? A man questioned. The mood in the room instantly turned sour. Angelica looked like she'd seen a ghost, her lips trembling as she struggled to find words. She thought, that witch! I should have finished her off 4 years ago. Now what? What on earth am I supposed to do now? Angelica's head snapped toward Amanda, her eyes flashing. Then her expression suddenly shifted to one of shock and heartbreak. Amanda, what did you do? You planned this with the ski coach? She asked. It hit Amanda in a flash. Angelica was throwing her under the bus. But what choice did she have? Her entire career was tied to Angelica. Gritting her teeth, she burst into tears. Angelica, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to teach Hazel a lesson. I never meant for you to get hurt too. This is all my fault, she cried. Angelica covered her mouth, her shoulders shaking with grief-stricken sobs. Amanda, how could you be so foolish? Hazel is my sister. Even if you had a problem with her, how could you go this far? You nearly put her in jail and almost got me killed. I can't have you as my agent anymore, she said. Amanda slapped herself hard across the face, twice. Yes, it's all my fault. Everyone exchanged stunned glances. So, Angelica didn't know anything about this? Amanda just went after Hazel on her own? Angelica turned to Hazel, tears streaming down her face. Hazel, on Amanda's behalf, I am so sorry. Don't worry, something like this will never happen again. Hazel let out a cold laugh. Done with your performance? Angelica's expression froze, the tears clinging to her eyelashes. Listening to the public's judgment of his family, Troy felt nothing but disgust. This daughter of his was a curse. Angelica was part of the family, but Hazel? She was supposed to sacrifice everything for the Ellington name. Why couldn't she understand that? Troy slammed his hand on the table, his face contorted with rage. Enough! This ends now! Stop bullying Angelica! Angelica immediately shrank behind him, playing the part of a frightened victim. Hazel's voice turned to ice. End it? Dad, because of Angelica and Amanda's scheme, I had to take a leave of absence from school. I lost business deals. I was harassed by her fans, and I almost went to jail. Now that the truth is out, you want me to just let it go with a simple enough? Troy's face flushed a deep red. What more do you want? He snapped. For Angelica to get on her knees and beg? Why can't you just let it go? What's the point of being so unforgiving? Angelica's fans chimed in angrily. Exactly. You're taking this too far, Hazel. It's wrong to make Angelica suffer like this. You should be the one apologizing. If you hadn't angered Amanda in the first place, none of this would have happened. Angelica got hurt because of you. It was a misunderstanding. So what if Angelica targeted you? You should be honored she even noticed you. Why are you being so petty? You're just rotten. Poor Angelica, having a sister like you. Hazel's eyes grew colder and colder. So, the perpetrators had done nothing wrong, and her only crime was getting in their way? Angelica was blameless, and she was expected to give up everything without a fight? Emboldened by the support, Troy softened his expression into a mask of fatherly concern. That's enough, Hazel. Why are you blaming Angelica? It's not like you actually went to jail. Mr. Morgan is still here. He came to discuss something important with Angelica. Don't bother him with our family's dirty laundry. Hazel laughed without a trace of humor, her eyes landing on Landon. Oh? I'm curious too. What important business brings Mr. Morgan all the way here to see Angelica? Landon narrowed his eyes, silently observing the Ellington family.
He'd always assumed Angelica's relationship with them was strained. After all, when that girl had saved him all those years ago, she had seen how hurt he was and asked why he didn't just go home. He had answered, "That place doesn't feel like home." The girl had looked at him with a quiet, shared heartbreak and said, "Then we're the same. I don't have a home either." Angelica was the stepdaughter. It was true, this family had never really been hers, but seeing them now... Mr. Morgan came to discuss Angelica's birthday, of course. When Landon didn't answer, Troy decided to take a gamble, jumping in with forced enthusiasm. "Mr. Morgan, Angelica was just saying her birthday is next week, and she was hoping you'd attend. That must be why you're here, right?" A coy blush crept up Angelica's cheeks. "Landon, I just got back to the country, and I'm planning a small birthday party. Uncle Ellington already agreed to host it at the Ellington estate. Will you come? Please?" Hazel went rigid. Her lips pressed into a thin, white line as she stared at Landon. She thought, "So, that's it? This is how it ends?" Landon had promised. He said he would never see Angelica again. And yet, here he was. A knot tightened in Hazel's chest. Abruptly, she stood and walked straight toward the door. The live stream camera tracked her every move as every head in the room turned to watch. A flicker of triumph shone in Angelica's eyes, though she feigned concern. "Hazel's probably just upset." Troy was quick to comfort her. "Angelica, you're still recovering. Don't you worry about her. She's always so dramatic. Don't you agree, Mr. Morgan?" The live chat exploded. One comment read, "We get that Amanda was wrong, but it had nothing to do with Angelica. Hazel's just jealous." Another said, "Hazel tried to flirt with Mr. Morgan just now, LOL, and he totally ignored her." A third comment declared, "Obviously, Mr. Morgan is Angelica's Prince Charming. Who does Hazel think she is? He's coming to her birthday party. That says everything." All eyes turned to Landon, waiting. Landon flicked his gaze to Angelica. "A small matter?" Angelica's face visibly tightened. A cold dread snaked up her spine. Then Landon's voice dropped, icy and cutting. "I don't consider a premeditated attempt to frame someone a small matter, Mr. Ellington." Troy flinched as if he'd been slapped. Landon pinned him with a sharp glare. "If I recall correctly, Hazel is your biological daughter, isn't she? Mr. Ellington, showing such blatant favoritism, aren't you concerned about how that looks?" Troy's throat went dry. He could feel his legs starting to tremble. He wondered what on earth was happening. Wasn't Mr. Morgan completely smitten with Angelica? Wasn't Hazel about to be divorced? He should be on Angelica's side. "Then what are you proposing, Mr. Morgan?" Troy began. Landon cut him off coolly. "Since everyone here is so insistent that Amanda was solely responsible, then let her take full responsibility." He turned to Angelica. "Miss Angelica, I assume you have no objection?" A wave of pure terror surged through Angelica's chest. She wondered what he meant by that. What kind of responsibility was he talking about? Angelica pleaded. "Landon, it was just a mistake. I'm sure in the future she'll..." Landon smirked, his eyes like ice. "Are you making excuses for her, Miss Angelica?" Amanda's gaze shot to Angelica, her eyes wide with desperate hope. Angelica couldn't just let Amanda take the fall for this. She was her right-hand woman. "Landon, Amanda will make it up to Hazel.
It's not like any real harm was done. I'm not saying she needs to do jail time. Landon's voice was completely detached. But she's done as your assistant, and she's done in this industry. A chill shot down Angelica's spine. He was forcing her to chew off her own arm. Amanda handled all her dirty work. Without her, Angelica would be completely lost. No, no way! Amanda's eyes widened as she shook her head frantically. Angelica, please, help me! You know you need me, how important I am to you. You can't just throw me away! Angelica bit her lip, about to plead for Amanda, but Landon cut in smoothly. Someone has to take responsibility for this. If Amanda won't, then you will, Miss Angelica. The hospital room fell dead silent. Angelica's face hardened. Landon owed her his life, and now he was threatening her? If Amanda didn't take the fall, she would have to. Angelica took a deep breath, then turned to Amanda, her expression one of cold resolve. Landon's right. You made a huge mistake, and just losing your job is getting off easy. You need to resign. I'll find a new manager. Amanda's knees buckled. Angelica? She whispered, her voice choked with disbelief. But Angelica had thrown her own mother under the bus before. What was Amanda in comparison? It's this or jail time. Any sane person knows which to choose. Right, Amanda? Amanda stared, seeing no way out. Her body went slack, and she crumpled to the floor. Landon had seen enough. He turned to leave, but Angelica's voice stopped him. She bit her lip. Landon, my birthday party is coming up. Will you come? Landon paused. Angelica, I've held up my end of the bargain. Are you sure you still want me there? Angelica didn't hesitate. Of course, Landon, Fine, Landon cut her off, his voice calm. Just don't regret it, Miss Angelica. Angelica watched him go, her fists clenched at her sides. Regret? Not a chance. She was going to hold on to Landon no matter what it took. She'd been in this business long enough to know that if you sell a lie hard enough, people start to believe it's the truth. She wasn't Mrs. Morgan now, but what if everyone thought she was? Where would that leave Hazel? At least for now, he was still coming to her party, all because he believed she was the one who saved him. Angelica's eyes turned icy. That secret had to be buried forever, and Hazel was standing in her way. Hazel had just settled into the car when her phone buzzed. It was Angelica. What a shame, Hazel. Looks like I won again. Honestly, at this point, why do you even bother trying to go against me? Hazel didn't waste her breath on politeness. You call that winning? You just threw 2 people under the bus to save your own skin, Angelica. First Katie, now Amanda. What happens next time one of your plans blows up in your face? Who are you going to sacrifice then? Troy? Angelica's voice went tight with rage. So what? At least Mr. Morgan thinks I'm innocent, and he's still coming to my birthday party. Then, her voice dripping with smug condescension, she added, Oh, that's right. I almost forgot. It's your birthday too, isn't it? Did Landon even mention it? Some Mrs. Morgan you are. You should probably just file for divorce and get out of everyone's way. Hazel let out a dry, humorless laugh, completely unfazed. A divorce? Sure. Then I'll walk away with half of Landon's fortune. Try not to cry when it happens, dear sister. Hazel, you! Hazel didn't let her finish. She hung up. But the calm in her voice was a lie. She was anything but calm. They had the same birthday, and Landon only remembered Angelica's? Her phone kept buzzing with alerts, headlines plastered across the screen. Mr. Morgan and superstar Angelica, wedding bells? The media was treating it like a done deal. Other celebrities were already sending public congratulations. Bitterness churned in her stomach. On impulse, she snapped to the driver. "Turn around. Take me to Sapphire Valley Villa." 30 minutes later, she stormed into the house. Without a word to anyone, she went straight to the study on the second floor. She was sure she'd put the prenup in the desk drawer, but after half an hour of frantic searching, it was nowhere to be found. Frustrated, she went to stand up and cracked her head hard on the corner of the desk. Her vision swam as she stumbled back, falling right into a pair of strong arms. "Did you hit your head? Let me see." Landon had rushed over the second he heard she was at the villa, walking in just in time to see her stumble. His hands steadied her. "You're getting a bump. I'll get some ointment." Hazel's face was pale, but when she saw it was him, she shoved the pain aside. "Save it. I'm not Angelica. That act doesn't work on me." Thinking of Angelica's smug voice and the headlines splashed all over the internet, a knot of frustration tightened in her chest. She used to have the energy to fight Angelica head-on, but now she was just tired. Tired of being caught in their web. If walking away was her only way out, then fine. Landon started, "Angelica and I." Hazel retorted, "Have nothing to do with me." Landon looked down, seeing the fury in her eyes. He didn't try to explain. Instead, he just asked gently, "What are you looking for? I can help you." Hazel went still for a beat, then answered, her voice flat. "The prenup. I want to see what it takes to file for divorce." The air in the study grew thick, charged with tension. Landon looked as if the floor had dropped out from under him. "No," he whispered, his voice taut. Her temper flared. The irony was suffocating. When she didn't want a divorce, Angelica was constantly scheming to make it happen. Now that she did, Landon was blocking her way. What kind of sick game was this? "You think you can just say no? This is my choice, my decision. You don't get a vote." Landon's voice was low and controlled. "Without my consent, it's not happening." Hazel suddenly stopped, and something clicked. A slow, dangerous smile spread across her face. "Fine. We don't have to get a divorce. Plenty of couples stay married on paper, but live completely separate lives. A piece of paper isn't going to stop me from living my life. And for the record, being married hasn't stopped other guys from trying to date me." As if on cue, her phone started ringing. She glanced at the caller ID and raised an eyebrow. "Speak of the devil. See? There's one now. Mr. Morgan, maybe you should step aside for a minute?" Landon's eyes dropped to the screen and saw the name. Jacob.